good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and this episode is honoring of Eris, which is in Aries. So the midheaven is right on Pluto, interestingly enough. And Pluto is also associated with Scorpio. And it says here in Mars, okay, Mars day, Mars hour, but this is an evening. And so one version is that this is a Saturn night. There are alternative versions, um, alternative night rulers. But for today, I actually chose to talk about another planet, which is Eris. The ascendant is on 11 degrees Taurus, with Venus in the 4th house in Leo. Venus in Leo, sextile in Mars, and trining Chiron. Lilith is trining Aries. The moon is not aspecting Aries in any way, shape, or form, but the Rahu is applying to conjunct Aries, and that is the chart for today, and the sun is opposing Neptune. So this is the chart, and for some reason I actually chose to talk about Eris. And Eris is the asteroid of discord, but basically she was the one who was not invited to the party because she didn't have the manners that everybody else has. And she decided to play a trick and to cause everybody to fight, okay? And she basically caused the Trojan War. Now, this is a very nice myth. And the discovery of Eris was very interesting because Pluto was considered a planet, and then they discovered a planet that is farther away from Pluto, but a bit bigger than Pluto. And they, for a God-forsaken reason, they decided to demote Pluto and say Pluto is not a planet and Eris is a dwarf planet. So as astrologers, Eris is not an asteroid. And since we do treat Pluto as a planet, then there's no reason to not treat Eris as a planet, which is what I do, and I include her in the outer planets. But there is an even more interesting way that this is playing out, because on a mundane level, Eris is representative of that which was excluded from society. And well, there's always a reason, okay? Whether it's the etiquette, whether it's the behavior, whether it's the this, there's always a reason to say, oh, we're not inviting that to our party. Aries basically is the people that are not sitting close to the plate. We're going to call it the political plate, the resources plate, the connections plate, and an identity plate. And these people, they have to work on a particular stunt in order to get into the party. So that is where people come from, the outcasts of society, in various ways. Okay, and it can be where they grew up. It can be who their ancestors are. It can be what their political opinion is as well. It can be their gender or the lack of. It can be something that happened to them that isolated them in a certain way. And those people can no longer be a part of society in the usual way, and they have to find a stunt in order to get into the party. They have to be original in the way that they present themselves, or what they do. And these are people that really see the world from the point of view of an outcast. So when you talk about, the marginalized societies, it's often the margins within the margins. And what you see is like the tip of the iceberg as to what the margins actually are. And so what these people deal with, or beings deal with, is existentially so close, but actually so distant at the same time. Okay, they're right beside you. They're your neighbors, they're your doctor, they're your spouse, they're your friend, they're your enemy, they are your this, they're your that. As they're right beside you sometimes, but also they are dealing with things that that seems ages from you. All the while, to some degree, you're always dealing with something that is affecting you in a way that you don't see it. But because they were more affected by it, they see it quicker, and they either understand that they don't know how to show you that. Okay, they don't know how to basically open your eyes to the reality that they're in, so that they would be understood and seen and accepted into the party. Okay, and so what they do very often, whether it's even children or teenagers or people or whomever, what they would do is that they would throw something. Okay, they would throw something into the room where the party is, where the people that are associated with the plate are. It could be the parliament, but it can also be the networking event, and this can be the church, and this can be even the conventions of marginalized people. They will do it as well. Okay, the LGBTQ community, the feminist community, and so on and so forth. And they throw something at the center of the room, which seems legit, okay, at first, and then they begin to unravel the many struggles that they deal with, by the way of making other people fight with each other. Okay, making other people fight and exclude each other. Okay, this is what they do. And this praxis is considered narcissistic in many ways, but you must remember that this is a praxis that is practiced by people who are marginalized, who are not a part of the plate. And this can be ranging from feeling loved and desired. This can be ranging from being seen and appreciated, from having food and having water and having shelter, and so on and so forth, of being able to do to be alive, to feel alive. Okay, and what makes them feel alive is basically different sometimes too, not sometimes, always, at least in one thing, to what society considers or deems a part of society. And the more strict and dogmatic the society is, and it doesn't matter what the religion or the lack of religion, okay, the more strict and dogmatic the society is, the more people are excluded by it, but it's also affecting all of society. Okay? If you think about the struggle for liberation of people, okay, to have your freedom. So in the past, if you weren't born to a certain caste or a certain class, then you had no rights of movement even, okay? And so when mankind, as what we know right now as man, struggled to change that, then this was of course affecting also other parts in societies, right from our shoes, the shoes that you see people wearing that have this almost triangle shape, okay? They were showing class. The history of these shoes, they were showing class. And so the peasants, they were wearing regular shoes, but they had no freedom of movement. And what happens when you wear the shoes that distinct you from the crowd in where you can walk and what you can do? They basically crunch your toes. and that affects your psyche, it affects your mind, it affects your posture, and eventually you're basically, the way you are treating these people that are maybe your slaves, you limit their freedom of movement and their health. And so while their feet are absolutely fine, if you would just look at their feet, you see how their feet are supposed to look like, but you're limiting your own freedom of movement by your posture and your mind and your spirit, okay? So releasing the slave, I'm not talking about even the slavery of black people. It's way before that, okay? Way before that, where there were people that were slaves, that was their position, they're slaves. The liberation of the slaves was the liberation of humanity into a better stance. So, and it is in that way with every liberation, okay? Liberation is not on the account of those who enslave, but is actually contributing, changing the equilibrium into a better state. And so we can understand why the need to tend to and be able to include that which we have not been able to include is imminent, but also the difficulty to understand, okay? Why would this person be doing this? Why would this person not be arriving on time for the meeting? Okay, why are they not punctual? Why is this person, why don't they want to work? Okay, and the existential gap between the person that cannot be punctual because they have ADHD, why do they have ADHD? Because something about them being themselves was not accepted, and they had to change the time and space, and they were not able to be here in the time and the space. Okay, not all neurodivergence is that, but it's just an example for the sake of the example. Why don't they want to work? Because every time they tried to work, they felt that life is meaningless, and then they went through violence, and they tried to solve this. So maybe I do this job, maybe I do that job. So they still are on their path of finding how can they be a part of society, but also feel alive, feel good, and there can sometimes be your shaman. Okay, there can sometimes be the person that you meet when you have an ailment and you're like, Okay, they ask you, how did you dance? Do you sleep well? Did you dance? Do you sing? Do you enjoy life? Do you create? You're like, well, my job is, I don't know, I'm an accountant and so and so. And they begin to connect between the organ in the body that was hurt and the network of connections that were hurt and the lifestyle. And so sometimes through the medicine, they can integrate sometimes they become the shaman of the society. Sometimes they become the revolutionary, the reactionnaire, and sometimes they become the criminal. So with Eris, basically she's in particularly in Eris is who is the best person? Who is the best person? What is the Übermensch? What is the person that is who is included and who is not included? What do I need to do to be included? Who do I need to be? Okay, who do I need to be a part of that? And how do I do it without giving up myself? Okay, Eris also asks, what is human? What is a human being? Okay, and this is the more difficult even because um, because we run into a situation where we demonize only to find out that those that we demonize the most are human beings. Okay, and this is ranging from stuff like demonizing the behavior of certain women, saying, oh, women use their sexuality to overpower men, to abuse men, to this, to that, only to find out that you have a person that was, I don't know, molested at so and so age, and they learned that the only way for them to get into the party is to do something that is seductive. Okay, or the demonization of a narcissistic man, which is more recent, only to find out that if you haven't paid careful attention when people talk about narcissism, it's basically people that grew up with a sort of, in some cases, emotional molestation from the parent. In some cases, they were playing a part in one of their parents. Some cases, not all the cases, can't cover everything. That they were the partner of the parent rather than the child. Or they required to take a certain part in the emotional lives of at least one of their parents that belongs to a spouse. Okay, they were required to do that as a child. So, so how will they be having a relationship? That we defend ourselves does not mean that we have to demonize another. And that can range also on a mundane level. Why would a person do that? Why would a person do that? And so we run into the human side. And so Eris is basically, is not only on a human level, but also on a mundane level. What it wants is for people to be able to be included into society. And for society to honor human rights, okay? The card it is willing to play is every card possible, because from the vantage point, as far as I got, like Eris, from the vantage point of Eris, there is no price to human life. Okay, you cannot buy human life. Okay, when you trade human life, there is no price that that will not be paid to return this hostage, to find this kid, to retrieve this person, to include these people into society. And strategically and consequently enough, it is actually through atrocities on a mass scale that this is shown. Okay? Why? When you have a problem, only you deal with that problem. Nobody will allocate resources to help you. Nobody will allocate resources to help you. They can't even see your problems. They don't understand your problem. Nobody will allocate resources for you. When 10,000 people have this problem, now you have a group that can maybe start something. Now, depending on what are the resources that you need to solve the problem, then that is and how many people need to say yes so that you will be safe and alive. Those are the many people in danger. Everybody that has to say yes so that you will have food on your table, a place to live. So everybody has to say yes. They are on the line, because if they say no, what they're basically saying is, you don't have the right to be here. Why would that marginalized person care about the life of all these people, even masses of people, if they did not find a saint in sodomy that says, oh, but of course you deserve to live, but of course you deserve, you know, to have a life here, to have a place here. And this is at the heart of the things that Eris is bringing to the world, because the more people deal with something, the more realization they have that this thing needs to be changed. Okay, for centuries, women were having sex with their husband whether they liked it or not. And they had either they would poison the husband if they had, access to poison the husband, or they would do some magic, or this would be the case. Okay, and so it would take a lot for also women to say, okay, this is not something that can go on. This is not something that can go on. Okay, this point where I'm like, where my sexual voice is not respected, when my sexuality, how can I even say yes when I'm expected to be there every time? And that's, it took a lot for even women to understand that it matters all that much. Okay, there's probably women that were hypersensitive to this topic. Were hypersensitive to this topic. This is where we also get to the Sedna stories, because Sedna was hypersensitive to this topic. Sedna needs her own honoring. It's a very deep story with Sedna, and she needs her own honoring. But this is where somebody was hypersensitive to that, so they couldn't do it. They couldn't, for their lives, they couldn't do it. If they were the only persons, like, okay, how will I make it understandable so all women will understand what is the implication, what are we doing to our bodies, to our souls, when we are not standing for it, and for men to understand that this is a very bad thing. So one way is for men to experience this. Another way, the only time men would protect women is from another man. Okay, so and that already means war. So that is a very difficult. Okay, how would a person that was sitting in a psychiatric ward and seeing that what they are given is not helping them, and what helps them they are not given, how is one person like this able to wake up an entire society to the atrocities and to the fact that this needs to be changed. Okay, one way is to create a political situation in which every person that doesn't agree with the king, the government, the this, the that, is being outcast as crazy and go to the exact same treatment as this person goes. Okay, and now everybody has an enlightenment. We must treat people that are crazy better. Okay? Yes, but if you don't even see that there is such a case, and all you saw that this person maybe was, I don't know, maybe attacking even somebody beforehand, so you're like, okay, like they're getting help. They're getting help, okay? And so we don't come to check. And but also there are certain things that just we don't see them, okay? We don't see them. If you have ascendant Taurus, like the ascendant is now, Eris is in the 12th house. So we talk about certain figures that were key figures in humanity that are either demonized, idealized, but nobody heard about Hitler when he was trying to make a living off of painting and staying in homeless places, homeless shelters or whatnot. Nobody, like, if he would die then, nobody would hear about it. Nobody would care, okay? Nobody would care about the crazy working market, the crazy labor, okay? Because what was expected of Hitler is like, yeah, you like to paint, but he didn't want to be an officer. He didn't want to be an officer like his father. He wanted to do something different, to be a creator, an artist. And if he would have been told, okay, you just take this job, have work, okay? He was not able to do that. And what did he do? Work in camps. Work in camps. He put the entire society in working camps. Now, all of you see it. All of you go through what I go through. All of you. What is the effect of working camps? Was that people understood that Arbeit macht nicht frei. Nobody bothers to listen to that. Nobody bothers to listen to that. Everyone did what Hitler was doing. Everyone did it. Israel did it. USA did it. USA is doing it today. If you're homeless in USA, you can't sleep in the street. You can't sleep in the street. You have to take this shelter. Netherlands. In the winter, they pick in people from the streets. Like, nobody would not go to a shelter if the shelter was safe. And how do they rehabilitate people? Work in camps. Hitler did nothing that wasn't done before and isn't done today in 2023. Okay? Eris is a wake-up call. And everybody understands that we shouldn't be working this hard. Everybody understands that we shouldn't be sacrificing our health to make an income, that slavery is not good. It is like everybody, not everybody gets it. If everybody got that, we wouldn't be there. But the thing is that if we take a look at those issues, okay, the most demonized examples where a single person that sees what he sees around, he sees everybody speaking about the motherland, the this, the that. In history, his history teacher teaches him something. It's like, oh, that sounds very beautiful, to feel belonging to the motherland. And he wants to study painting, so study the stuff that are related to art. Okay, anybody of you that has this person of the word or a person of painting, of creation, you know that we study the world in order to have a food for creativity. And then with our food for creativity, we want to make a good impact on the world. So what seemed then a good impact on the world is to purify the race, to have eugenics, to have a better Ubermensch, okay, the best person. It seems like an ideal thing, the great warrior. Okay, at the spirit of the time, that was one of the leading voices of the spirit of the time. Except that his paintings were simple; they were portraying what nature was, and that's it. They had their own beauty. It's the beauty of simplicity, but that's it. And so that person wants to bring a contribution to the world, okay? To create art that inspires people to look at the nature, the land that we are living in, the connection with the land that we are living in, and the spirit of the times had included all kind of ideas around it that were absolutely not unique to Adolf Hitler. In fact, he was also affected by Churchill. So, but not only. So this person cannot do your 9 to 5. You won't break my soul, the Beyonce song, You Won't Break My Soul, which funnily enough she performed at the beginning with her knee damaged, and people were criticizing her. You come to hear Beyonce, to see Beyonce dancing to You Don't Break My Soul, but you criticize she doesn't dance enough because she's recovering. And she wants to make sure she continues the whole show for the fans that were waiting for after COVID. Okay? So that was the story of a person that couldn't find themselves in the 9 to 5, what was then the 9 to 5, couldn't work in a normal job. He couldn't be that part of society that sits in. And what he ended up doing is working camps and putting the people that were the Irish people as wards for these working camps. And writing, Arbeit macht frei. It was not just the Jews. It was the LGBTQ, it was the people with disability, it was all the people that your society is already put in marginalized. You were already marginalizing them. Okay, it was creating this eccentric situation where all of these people are being put in working camps. If you cannot work, then you are dead. Okay? Anybody who has been even one day, slept one day in the street, they are closer to being Hitler. Every person who has to sleep even one day in a place that is not safe for them, even a 5-star hotel, if it's not safe for them, if they're harassed, is closer to being Hitler. Okay? Eris tries to bring that message. It's like, how can we be able to see on time what needs to be changed and change it on time and be more inclusive on time, so that the existential gap between humans doesn't become such that the person has to feel that if they don't kill the entire society, they simply won't be able to make it through the day. Because the entire society is to blame. The entire society is to blame. But they think you can, let's say you got out of violence, okay, or you got out of a battle, okay? Now you have to work 8 hours a day or 4 hours a day even. You have to work, you have to this, you have to, wait a fucking second. Wait a fucking second. If my coping mechanism is not to overwork myself, I don't have a right to be. If my coping mechanism is maybe that I sleep more, or maybe that I need to swim and I cry for hours, then yes, of course, I can work with people and cry for them for 8 hours. Of course, why not? It's very funny. Oh, now I need to dip my feet into the ocean. Oh, now I need to dip my feet into soil because something grows on. The power of doing these things. And there are things I don't tell you because it's the privacy of the people that are involved in them. But I can see how something, I can talk to a person, I can say one thing, put your feet on the soil. They tend to whatever is bothering them, and boom, they're blooming, they're doing something important, they're showing up, they're expressing themselves, they're having this breakthrough in their lives. I'm like, wow, they did it, okay? I just said, that sounds like something you could try to. I did not expect what would come out of it. Okay? I don't get paid to do that. Maybe if I would get paid to do that, I would do it on my terms. That's a contribution to society. That's another person not only does not become Hitler, but teaches people how to not become Hitler as well. Eris wants us to address those things that nobody looks at. And if we tend to do that, the great benefit is, first of all, we form connections that are genuinely beautiful. We discover beauty, we discover truths, and we discover things that make this experience of being alive worthwhile. Scientific discoveries, social discoveries, the stories. When I was a Me Too veteran, then because the person tried to put me in, like, yes, basically I call it human trafficking, but it's, I don't know, sugaring the dog, which is funny. Fortunately, my coping mechanism around sexuality was not to try to trade it, but to really try and see how do I find a willing consensual sex for me. It's a good experience that I like, that I'm whole with, that I enjoy, and in a connection that I really feel good in, and free and safe. So the thing is that I was exposed to this discourse of like sex workers, and criminalization, decriminalization, and whatnot. A lot of people and women who were both. The funny thing, when I learned about essential oils, then I wanted to make a project to have donation of blends for women, whether either in the industry or out of the industry or out of whatnot. And the first donor for this project was a woman that was a sex worker in her past. And she's totally red umbrella. So It's funny, like, I come to facilitate and assist um, that I'm being donated, and the thing, and what I learned more was about from survivors that were there not willingly, and managed to get out. They were always doing something creative. They were always, but also some of them, they were growing plants. One person is not survived of human trafficking, but from molestation, prolonged by the father. And she started growing plants, she growing her food, and I'm like, damn, I wish I could do it. I don't know. And it took me a while. I'm still in the process of doing that. And so it's those people that I come to just tend to them to see what can I do that eventually bring in things that are helping me. So there's a lot of good that happens when you tend to Eris. There's a lot of joy that you discover in life in places unforeseen. So it's worth tending to it. It's worth looking into those places, and that can help. It can put our best foot forward in diminishing the kind of friction that we have around those cases, that are those people that have such different lives from us, that even, you can ask an innocent question and the person's like a volcano erupting at you because you touched on something. And that is but that, when you heal that, then you can create a bond, you can understand more. So essentially, the atrocities that we see in humanity are stemming from those places that have not been tended to, and then they become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and viral. Okay, so on a cosmic level, if every other village is besieged by a supposed natural disaster, then the people who say, this was not a natural disaster when we were. These clouds, they were not natural. I know what clouds look like. This was not clouds. There's chemistry. Or there was this thing going on, there was that thing going on, and we listen to these people and we think, oh, this probably maybe they need help. So if this is what we think, eventually it will happen in every village. Until people wake up and say, oh my God, oh my God, you're saying something true. And so Eris perhaps could be, in a way, interrelated to the people who are considered having a conspiracy theory, having a reality, be living in a reality that is not real, or stuff like that. And there is always more to it. There's always more to it. And it's much better to hold the space of doubt, but also to hold the space is also to hold the resources. There's a lot less need to fight for your life, for your food, for your land, for your water, for your air, than we believe there is to be. A lot less. It's a lot less struggle. Okay? Don't make it a Mein Kampf for the people who tell you this. We don't have to succumb to the vision that all is war. All is war. Everybody, all they ever do is ever fight. Okay? Because just a moment of being able to sit on the ground and to look at the stars and to be inside your body and to enjoy energy without necessarily, without having to defend your boundaries, that is alleviating of even Hitler. So this indeed is the internal and the external ease and peace of mind and body and soul. That when you have that, you live. You have a place in the world. So Eris is about to finish her journey in Eris. Okay, she has a couple of years, but she's going to be ingressing into Taurus. And she's going to be changing sign from Mars to Venus. Okay, from being ruled by Mars to being ruled by Venus. And that means that her question is going to be more about values and beauty. But values, beauty is connections. Okay. But right now, Eris is more like, what is a human being? And making sure that we give place to human beings. Because Eris basically, since 1929, has been taking us through the journey of seeing that in humanity that is inhumane, and reminding us that this was a human being once. Before they were so marginalized from society that they felt like every single step they take is Mein Kampf. They were a human being. And the assembly that it takes to take down one man is tremendous. You would tell about people that tell you, oh, thanks to that thing, thanks to that event, thanks to that conversation, that's that person, I'm not an offender, I'm not a criminal, I'm not a Führer in a bad sense of a way. And you would hear about the people who were at that juncture, and something reminded them that they have a place in the world. That grace, you're genuinely a place in the world, not exploitation, others, like genuinely you have a place in the world. You'll hear them talking about this, you'll hear them say that. And that changed them. It is so easy. It is so easy to give this person that moment of grace. If every single person did that, how powerful we would be without having to fight each other. Again, you have willing consent when you have sex. And bless us, we can have sex in so many dimensions that sometimes even beyond the physical, right? So, but when you have willing consent, even beyond the physical, um, then eventually you see kind of like how we're all interconnected, and you probably would want to kind of have like a couple of children to give them a nice place. And then there would be people who would say, I don't like being a parent, being a this. Yeah, I like my nieces, I like to take care. I don't want to have babies myself. Okay, no problem. Um, and usually it's not more than that. Like it really is not what it. Yes, there are some times where people die and so on and so, but the thing is, it's not so much about survival as we have made it out to be, with every single belief that every day has such a struggle, has to be such a struggle. Doesn't have to be at all. Doesn't have to be. So if we expect a person to just accept it when they are having to fight each day for their life in homeless shelters, where to stay, where to sleep, where to this, where to that, it's just because they were born a painter. They were born, I don't know, a YouTube content creator, I don't know, like, modernize this. Yeah, they were born an astrologer, okay? They don't have the money to get certification. They have their own way of doing things. They need the freedom of creative art. Then if we expect such people to accept it upon themselves that this is life, then the story that they are going to tell of this life is Mein Kampf. Because it's a struggle, right? And what are they going to want to do to humanity? They're going to want to put all of humanity, that anybody that they think is responsible for this, it's not just the Jews. Not just the Jews at all. Everybody that thinks that you need to work hard. Put them in a place that says Arbeit macht frei and let them work. If we get that, if we get that, how do we treat those who cannot work the way we expect them to be able to work? If we get that, many of the issues are already solved. The imageries, we don't need them. The historical events, we don't need them. The essence is to make sure that we're giving life a place in the world. So underneath the atrocities, when everything is okay, ask yourself, somebody went through natural disaster, pandemic, pan this, pan that. It ain't for nothing that the people who had COVID was poisoning. The people who had a COVID poisoning, what did they suffer? Amongst many things. Unable to, feeling mentally not their best, tired, chronically tired. Chronically tired. Who else feels chronically tired? People who went through violence. People who can't, people who are working but not in what they're supposed to be working. Oh, you get up enraged in the morning, hating everybody. Hitler! But imagine that, you get up, you create something nice in the morning, drink a cup of coffee. You're going to do what you need to do. If they make it easy for you. And make it easy, I mean, if they don't make it hard. So you don't even have to make it, you just don't have to make it hard. Because essentially it's easy. So if we think a person went through a pandemic, a violent incident, a this, a that, okay, come, we'll find you work, come. But darling, they were already, they were going through this because work was killing them. Work was killing them. I was working for a credit card company. And one of the people that was working with me was a salesperson. I remember this, okay? He just came one day and said he wishes to be raped and murdered. He says he wishes to be, not to do this to somebody else. He was like, the fuck? What did I just, what? This is what happens to people that work in those places where they're like, obviously this person should have been doing something else with their life. And obviously it's not like some kink that they have. Okay? It's a terrible state of distress that the person is acting on themselves. You save people. So, well, Eris does not speak of Arbeit, okay, of work. It does speak about who do we include in society, and then it depends on what is the theme of the day. Okay, you take a look at the person, let's say, homeless person. What do you say? Oh, come, let's find you a job. Let's make you look better, and find you a job. Now, for some people this helps. For some people this is what they need to do, and they appreciate this. But for some people they are there because they already gave up on life because everything that they were doing was not yielding. And it doesn't have to be their career. It can be their marriages, it can be many other things. And have to keep showing up for work, keep showing up for work. Take this pill, show up for work. Okay? And so we meet that at work a lot. It's not only at work that we meet that, but we meet that a lot. And think about this person who is desperate, and think about an outer planet that says to him, I will show all of humanity how you feel. I will show all of humanity how you feel. I will not give up your life. You say, what, are you going to kill all of this humanity for me? I said, but all of this humanity, they were okay with you dying. They were okay with you not having a life. They were okay with this. All of them, they were okay with this. And now this square of Pluto and Eris is like, I'm looking for the one person in sodomy that is not okay with this. So just by tending to Eris, and right now she's in Aries, so any Mars stays good. Any Mars stays good. You can see she's at 25 degrees Aries. Whatever you have there, the planet that you have there, the day of the planet and the night of that planet is good. Setting intention, okay, to honor Aries. That is good. Speaking, sharing a story that is in the spirit of Eris. That's very good. So, for some of you, it may mean that you are going to speak up more. Okay, there's a person that I want to bring on spirit of matter, and they are very, very flexible, and they are very deeply into Aries. But I say that I was called in to get to know her more before I bring him to the show, and so like things were not matching up with the schedule, because I see that I have, I guess, a lot to bring in relation to Aries, and I need to speak up. Okay, so, and that interview, when it is time, then it is time. So yeah, you want to ask yourself, like, how many people need to die of medical warfare for humanity to change the way medicine works, to change the fact that some people are oppressed to take medications while others are denied medications that help them, that while the medications that are marketed are oppressing people, the medications that are saving lives genuinely, causing even remission from terminal cancer, are not marketed on purpose, and they exist. And every time there's some other researcher that finds something like that, but people still go through torture and chemotherapy for no reason. How many people have to die before humanity tends to that? Before humanity even knows that is a possibility, and before humanity tends to that. How many people have to have their city besieged before we understand there's just something going on here that we need to tend to? So those are the questions that Eris asks. Some of it is just we genuinely are not aware of. We genuinely don't know that there is a solution. Genuinely don't see. We genuinely don't believe we can do something. Tending to Eris, she always finds a third option. She's going to find a third option. Her card is Discordia, but it can be smaller. Okay, it doesn't have to be this World War. So yeah, this was my Eris honoring, and I think we moved on to the Sun, which is opposing Neptune. Sun opposing Neptune. Yeah. So yes, thank you.